Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Joey Francess, your life, love, and relationship coach. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, obviously, you've seen the title, so you know that this week I want to talk about something that hits hard for a lot of people, especially if you're someone who's done the work. You've healed, you've journaled, you've regulated, you've reflected, and now you're back into the dating world thinking, why does one good date send me into a spiral? Why does one text message make me question my worth? Why am I overthinking someone who I barely even know? See, this week, it is not about the relationship. It's not even about the heartbreak. It's about the before. It's about the first 30 days, the spark, the fantasy, and the projection. The part where most people lose themselves, not because they're weak, but because they're wired for connection. It's like we want something so bad, so we try to see it even if it isn't there. And I want to say this clearly, dating isn't the hard part. Staying regulated while you date, that's the real challenge. Because when you're single, you're in control of your life. You've built your rhythm. You've built your peace. You know what your day looks like. You know what triggers you. And you've built a life, hopefully, that avoids that for the most part. But the moment you decide to start dating, you're letting someone in your emotional space. You're giving someone access to you, your time, your energy, your attention. And that, my friends, is when shit gets messy. So today I want to talk about how to stay grounded, how to pace your emotional investment, and how to date without abandoning yourself, and how to stop calling it love when all it really is anticipation and or lust. So let's start off with chemistry, because it's one of the biggest traps in early dating. Because chemistry, it's exciting, it's intense, it's magnetic. It's the thing that makes you say, I don't know what it is about this person, but I just feel something. And I mean, listen, that's great. We all want to feel something. We want to feel that spark. But the truth is, chemistry isn't clarity. Chemistry is a feeling. Clarity is a decision. And if you're not grounded, you'll confuse the two. And that's when things start to go sideways. See, here's what happens. You meet someone, you feel that spark, you start texting, you start imagining, and then you start projecting. And before you know it, you're not dating anymore. You're fantasizing. You're not observing, you're performing. You're not pacing, you're chasing. You start filling in the gaps with hope instead of data. You know, when we think too much and we start jamming in answers that we think are viable, no matter how close or far they are from the truth. You start ignoring the red flags because of that dopamine feels so good. You start convincing yourself that this person is different, even though you barely know them. And I've said this all before, you're not falling in love. You're falling in possibility. So let me ask you something. Are you connecting with who they are or who you want them to be? Are you responding to their presence or to your own loneliness? Are you building a relationship or are you just trying to fulfill a fantasy? Because if you're not clear on that, you're going to get hurt. Not because they're a bad person, but because you weren't dating the person in front of you, you were dating the version of the person you created in your head. And again, that's not love, that's projection. Now, obviously, chemistry is not a bad thing. Chemistry is, one of the more important things when it comes to dating and relationships. Chemistry can get you in the door. Clarity is what keeps you there. So when you feel that spark, slow down. Ask a question, observe, listen. Don't just get excited, get curious. Because the truth is, anyone can feel excited in the beginning, but not everyone is safe. Not everyone is consistent. Not everyone is going to be aligned. And you're not paying attention, you'll miss it because you're too busy chasing that feeling. I've said this obviously before, because when it comes to online dating, so many people I think get it wrong. And they get it wrong is because they're looking for the chemistry, right? You are in an incredible position. You can learn about someone. All those things that I've told you, the things that you're looking for, the things you don't want, how you want to be treated. You can start finding this stuff out before the chemistry is even a necessity. And I know a lot of people, they don't want to deal with it. They're like, no, I don't want to get to know you. I want to know if my time is worth getting to know you because of that chemistry. That chemistry's there. I can, it's worth getting to know you. But the thing is, if there's massive deal breakers, right? It doesn't matter if you have chemistry or not. Because, for instance, if you don't want someone who smokes, and you'll hear this again later on in the episode because I tell a story about it. But if you don't want someone who smokes, it doesn't matter how much chemistry is there, they smoke. That's a deal breaker for you. It's done. You can find that out over the phone. You can find that out within a conversation. You don't necessarily need to go out with someone to find that out. And therefore, saving your time. Because, like I just said, when there's chemistry, it can start to skew our versions. We can start ignoring the red flags. Chemistry is just a spark. Clarity is the standard. And you need both. You do need both. Chemistry is important, but so is everything else. So don't build a future off of feeling. Build it off of facts. Build it off of patterns. Build it off of presence. Because those are the things that are going to last. So when you do start to spiral, it happens fast. You go on one good date, you get one sweet text message, you feel that spark, and suddenly you're not just interested in somebody. Now you feel like you're invested. You're checking your phone every 5 minutes. You're replaying the conversation in your head. You're wondering what someone meant by an emoji. You're imagining what it would be to date them, live with them, and sometimes even marry them. And listen, I'm not judging you if this is the type of person you are and these are the things you do, because I've come across lots of people that are like this. I've seen it. I've coached it. I've lived it. This is what happens when we confuse excitement with emotional safety. But the truth is that you're not spiraling because you're broken. You're spiraling because you're human, because you want to feel chosen. You want to feel safe, because you want to believe that just maybe that this person is the difference. This is the one. We all want that. But here's the problem. When you spiral, you start to abandon yourself. You stop asking the right questions. You stop observing. You stop pacing, and you start performing. As in, you're trying to win them over. You might have them already, but inside your head, it's like, what can I do to keep this person in my life? They're so different. This feels right. They feel like the one. What can I do? And then you start showing up as the version of you that you think they'll like, instead of the version of you that's actually real. So let's slow this down. Let's talk about what self-abandonment looks like in early dating. See, you see the red flag, you explain it away. You feel anxious, and then you start blaming yourself for being too much. You feel disconnected, but you keep showing up because you don't want to be alone. You start shrinking your truth to keep the connection alive. You start over disclosing, over giving, over functioning, hoping that it will make them stay. Does any of this sound familiar? And I know to some of you it will, because we've literally talked about it. That's not dating. That's survival. So how do we stay grounded? We pause. We pace. We check in with ourselves, not just them. You ask yourself, do I feel calm? Or am I starting to get addicted to this feeling? Am I observing or am I projecting? Am I showing up as myself or as a version I think they'll like? Because if you're not checking in with yourself, you're going to lose yourself. And then when things don't work out, it's going to hurt. It might even hurt more because you thought you gave them exactly what they wanted. And you think to yourself, like, how could anybody turn that down? How could anybody turn it down? I'm literally tailoring me to be the perfect person for you. So here's what I want you to do. After every day, just ask yourself, did I feel like myself? Did I feel heard? Did I feel safe? And do I feel like I was performing? Or was I being myself? And literally check in with yourself all the time, asking these questions. Because if the answer is no, then you need to reflect. You need to ask yourself why. Don't chase. Don't spiral. Don't convince yourself that it's just the early days and things will get better. I've said it 1,000,000 times and I'll say it 1,000,000 times more. The two most important pillars in any relationship are communication and acceptance. I will drill that into your head. Acceptance. Don't forget it. Because telling yourself that things aren't going to be better is you not accepting them as they are, and you're trying to accept a future version of them that you hope they'll be. That's you gambling. That's you not accepting them. Because if you abandon yourself now, the real you is going to be dead to them. They have no idea who you real are, and this relationship is not going to be a relationship. It's a fable. So let me say this clearly. You need to be your authentic self. You don't need to be chosen. You need to choose, and you need to choose yourself every time. Because the right person, they're not going to ask you to shrink. They're not going to make you question your worth. They're not going to make you spiral. They're going to make you feel calm. They're going to make you feel clear. They're going to do their best to make you feel comfortable, and not a version of you that's trying to earn love. See, I mean, I've come across this so much where there's even people out there that will come across as somebody who cares and is acknowledging you. And they will tell you like, oh, I hear you, I acknowledge you. But what they end up doing is they're trying to groom you, in a manner of speaking, train you. I hear you. I listen to you. I accept that you have this issue, or, something's bothering you. But let me tell you about what's bothering you. What's bothering you makes me feel embarrassed. What's bothering you makes me feel like less of a person. Maybe this stuff shouldn't be bothering you. And see, that's what they're trying to do, where they acknowledge you, but at the same time, they're trying to flip the script back onto you, saying, you shouldn't ask me these questions. You shouldn't be thinking these things about me and about our relationship. And if that becomes the case, you need to be extremely self-aware, because it's tough. It is tough to see. It is tough to figure it out, because like I said, on the surface, it does seem like this person cares and they're acknowledging you, even if they're trying to tell you not to do something anymore. Anyways, I want to move on to emotional pacing, because so many of you don't do it. You meet someone, you feel the spark, Then you start texting all day, every day, and you start imagining a future. And then you start emotionally investing in someone you barely know. And then when it doesn't work out, you're devastated. Not because you lost the relationship, but because you lost the fantasy. The truth is, you cannot build a relationship faster than you can build trust. You cannot build a relationship faster than you can build trust. So how fast it takes you for you to trust someone is how fast or how long it will take for you to build a relationship. And you cannot build trust without time, consistency, and more data. So if you're investing emotionally before you've gathered any real information on someone, you're not dating. Like I said, you're gambling. You're gambling your future happiness. You're gambling your time. You're hoping that the person is who you think they are. You're hoping that they will meet your standards. You're hoping that they'll be consistent. But hope isn't a strategy. And chemistry isn't a contract. Now, this is something that comes up a lot. Texting. See, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to limit how much you text someone, because I think that's nonsense. There's people out there that are like, no, I can only text you, once a day, and that's it. Or we can have one conversation a day, and that's it. The thing is, if it's mutual and it feels good and it's flowing, enjoy it. Do it. You're getting to know someone. Connection is allowed, and it's allowed to feel good. But here's the key. Yes, there's obviously downsides to things. Don't cross your own boundaries to keep a conversation going. As in, don't stay up all night texting someone when you know you need to sleep and wake up early the next day. Don't ignore your gut just because the vibe feels good and exciting. Because again, if it feels good now, it should continue feeling good tomorrow. And then if it doesn't, that's a telltale sign for you. And then that's more data for you to figure out what you're going to do next, what your next steps are. Because texting is fine as long as it's respectful, reciprocal, and real. And this includes voice notes and even phone calls technically. See, as long as you're checking in with yourself and you're not using it to fill a void, you're not using it because you feel lonely and you're just grasping and trying to keep the conversation going because you want to feel that loneliness, because you don't want to feel lonely anymore. You want to feel like you have someone. So if that's the case, check in with yourself. And if that's the case, then you need to ask yourself, are you talking to this person because you're interested in them? Or are you talking to them solely for the purpose because you're bored? Because you're bored. Again, something that I've talked to a lot of people about, because they start to do things when they get bored. Because let's clear something up. Yes, attention is not always intention. Because if somebody is consistently showing up, putting in the time, making space for you, that does mean something. It doesn't mean they're your person. It doesn't mean they're ready. But it does mean that they're trying. And that is worth noticing. Again, you have to take everything as if it was a grain of salt. Okay? Don't dismiss the effort, but at the same time, don't overvalue it. Let it be what it is. A signal, not a guarantee. So, this is what emotional pacing actually looks like. It's not about playing games. It's not about being cold or distant, playing hard to get. It's about staying connected to yourself while you get to know someone else. It's about moving at a speed where you can still hear your own thoughts, where you can still feel your gut, where you're not so caught up in the excitement that you forgot to ask the right questions, and not even forgot to, that you felt good about asking the right question. You felt safe to ask the right questions. That somebody isn't saying, hey, you know what? Maybe this is a little too deep to talk about right now. Obviously, use your own discretion. But again, if you need to know something to feel safe, to know that this is worth continuing. I know we're talking about like the first 30 days and not getting wrapped up in all this shit, but if you need to know something to continue, ask. It's the only way you're going to know. You know how I know? Because I literally have men and women contact me, talk to me, tell me about their current love interest, their current relationship, if you want to call it that. And they'll ask me the questions. Hey, do you think so-and-so, blah, 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 blah? I don't know. I'm not them. Like, I don't know why you're asking me. I go, here's the idea. If you really want to know, ask them. That's all you have to do. Just ask them if you really want to know, if it's that important to you. So here's how it shows up in real life. You take time to observe patterns, not just moments. One sweet text doesn't mean they're consistent. One good date doesn't mean they're emotionally available. You look for follow-through, not just follow-up. You stay curious instead of committing too early. You're not trying to lock it down after 2 dates. You're trying to learn who this person is really. How do they handle stress? How do they respond when you set a boundary? That's an important one. And that's not necessarily one that you'll find out within questions. That's something that you might find out after the fact, like after you go on some dates and start learning about them, or when you present them with a boundary. Don't rush to label the connection. You're not calling it something special just because it feels good. You have to let it unfold. You have to let it breathe. Check in with yourself and not just with them. After every interaction, ask yourself, do I feel like me? Do I feel safe? Can I be honest with this person? Am I able to talk to them? Am I able to ask them some personal deep questions? Do I feel seen, or are they just pandering to me, trying to stimulate me? You don't ignore your standards just because the vibe is strong. If they say something that doesn't sit right with you, don't brush it off. And you don't say, well, nobody's perfect. You say, that matters to me, and I need to pay more attention. And even if you need to spawn more conversations on it and feel safe enough to bring it to their attention and say like, hey, listen, XYZ. You allow space between interactions, not because you're trying to be mysterious, but because you want to stay grounded. You want to reflect. You want to make sure that you're still showing up as you, not of the version of you that's trying to earn love. Emotional pacing is about self-trust. It's about knowing that you don't need to rush to prove your worth. You don't need to overextend to keep someone interested. You don't need to abandon your clarity just because someone feels exciting. You are allowed to take your time. You're allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to walk away if something doesn't feel right, because dating isn't just about finding someone. It's about staying with yourself while you do it. I was going to say, about being allowed to take your time and ask questions, because recently, just someone that I was recently talking to, again, wasn't that long. It was literally a matter of 2 days. I started asking questions because that's what I do. I'm curious. I want to learn about you. And she didn't really want to answer. And I mean, that's fine, right? But when the conversation, I think I even spoke about this before, but when the conversation gets to a certain point that it's like every question I answer or every question I ask is getting met with a very vague answer, what am I doing here? What's the point? Clearly, you're not ready to meet someone or interested in getting to know someone because you don't even want to answer any questions. Now, obviously, I understand that some are more personal than others, but they weren't all, super personal and deep. And these are things that I needed to know to carry on, to continue. And when I couldn't, the power of walking away early. And that is something a lot of people struggle with, walking away early. Because here's what happens. You meet someone, you feel a spark, you start talking, you start hoping, you start to notice something. Maybe it's a red flag, maybe it's a deal breaker, maybe it's just a gut feeling that something's off. But instead of walking away, you say, maybe it'll change. Maybe I'm being too much. Maybe I'm being too picky. Maybe I just need to give it another time. And I guarantee there's so many of you out there listening to this that will resonate with this. Maybe I should give them another chance. Because now you're not dating with clarity, you're dating with compromise. Let me say this clearly. If somebody has something you don't want and it's a hard no from you, as in it's a deal breaker, walk away. Not with anger, not with judgment, just with clarity. Like, I know so many times myself, even other people that I've talked to, where, you start talking about other people, like how you view other people. And everyone's like, oh, I don't judge. I'm not someone who judges. And it's like, you're full of shit. Okay. We all judge. Everybody judges. And I mean, even me, the way that I say it is, listen, when it comes to human life, other people around the world, I don't give a shit what anybody's does, provided you're not hurting anyone else, maybe not even hurting yourself. I don't care. Go do what you want. Doesn't bother me. But when it comes to my life and who I involve in my life, well, that matters now. Your views, the way you do things, you don't even have to be hurting yourself or anyone else. But maybe we disagree on shit. Maybe I don't want that in my life. So yes, I judge people. We all do it. When we're considering to have someone in our lives, this is not just romantic relationships, friendships as well. I mean, even people that have come to me for coaching, people with my other businesses that come to me that are not a good fit, I judge. Because the longer you stay, the harder it gets. The more you invest, the more you justify. The more you justify, the more you abandon yourself. And when it ends, you're not just hurt. You're resentful, not just of them, but of yourself. Because deep down you knew you just didn't listen to yourself. And then you start going into a circle of, how could I have done this? I'm so stupid. How did I let myself do this? So there's this girl, she's a client of mine. She met a guy online. Great banter, great energy. They talked every day for 2 weeks. She told me that he was charming, funny. He said all the right things. But then she found out he smoked. And for her, it's a hard no. She'd grown up around people being addicted, and it bothered her. And she made a promise to herself. No smokers, no exceptions. And so she told him calmly and respectfully, I really like talking to you, but this is something I cannot compromise on. And he said, yeah, but I'm trying to quit. Maybe you could be the reason I finally stop. Now listen, that's flattering. That's hopeful. That's romantic. But it's also a gamble. Because she wasn't dating his potential. She was dating his reality. And what did she do? She walked away. Not because she didn't care, but because she cared about herself more. And that's what walking away early looks like. It's not cold. It's not cruel. It's clarity. It's saying, I know what I want. I know what I don't want. And I trust myself to honor that. And you are the only person that can honor that. So if you've ever been, or maybe you are, in this situation where you find somebody and you get to know them, and there's a spark, and there's chemistry, and there's all this interest, and then all of a sudden there's a red flag, there's a deal breaker, you need to do what's right for you. And that's walking away more times than not. If you want to talk about it with them, because maybe it's not smoking, maybe it's something else, that's for you to decide. Obviously for a lot of people, drugs are a no-no. You don't want to date someone that does drugs. Understandable. But what if someone did drugs? What if they used to do drugs? What if they recovered? That might be something you'd be open to, depending on the situation. Then again, maybe it's part of your deal breaker. I don't want to date anybody that has done or will do drugs. Right? But again, it obviously needs context. And you need to know where your stance on that is. And again, these have to be like hard stands, so that you know that if you do come across a situation, it's not like, oh, but my God, he's so cute though, and he's so romantic. Or, oh, but she's so hot though, and she just says the right things to me and makes me feel so good. Yeah, sometimes it's going to happen, and it's going to be hard to walk away. I mean, she could have stayed. She could have waited. She could have hoped, but she didn't. She chose herself. And that's what I want for you. She is was, obviously, don't need to necessarily talk to her much anymore, because she was a wonderful student. She listened to me. She honored herself, and she does things to protect herself, and she sticks to her guns. And that's where it gets her, I think now, the last time I talked to her, she was with somebody for a little while now. So, and as far as I know, she's happy. She found a good guy. It happens. It does happen. Guys, dating and searching for someone does have an end game, and you can make it to that end game. Let's talk about some self-trust. Because walking away early isn't about being harsh. It's about being honest. It's about trusting yourself to honor your standards. It's about believing that what you want exists and that you don't have to settle. Because the truth is, most people don't struggle with finding someone. They struggle with leaving someone who isn't right. The struggle with the sunk cost fallacy. But I've already invested so much time. I've already built this connection. And what if I don't find someone else? What if this is the best that I can get? That's the fear talking. That's scarcity talking. That's not clarity. So here's your reminder. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to say, this isn't for me. You are allowed to protect your peace, even if it disappoints someone else. And I know that's a huge one, because so many people out there do not want to hurt somebody. And I get it. But here's the thing. Here's the deal. You are going to exchange hurting yourself versus hurting someone else. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with hurting yourself to save someone else? I mean, it's very altruistic of you, right? But the thing is, at the end of the day, it's only going to get worse, because if you don't like someone and you're not in it, what are you doing? You're just, oh, but I feel bad if I break up with them, or I feel bad if I break up with her. That's dating. Tough cookies. Because dating isn't about pleasing people. It's about choosing people. And that means you need to know what you want and what you don't. And if someone shows you who they are, believe them. Don't think, oh, but maybe they're putting on a show. Maybe this isn't real. Maybe they're this or that. No. face value, take it for what it is. And if who they are doesn't align with what you need, walk away. Not with drama, not with guilt, just with clarity. Because dating with clarity is going to lead you down the best path. You've heard me say it throughout this episode that dating isn't the hard part. Staying grounded while you date, that's the challenge. Because the moment you start dating, you're not just meeting someone. You're meeting your patterns. You're meeting your projections. You're meeting the parts of you that still want to be chosen, even when it costs you your peace. I think we talked about that last week. And if you're not clear, you'll start confusing your fantasy for connection. You'll start to confuse chemistry for compatibility. You'll start to confuse attention for alignment. So this is your reminder. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to walk away early. You are allowed to protect your peace at all costs, essentially, even if it disappoints someone else. Because dating isn't about proving your worth, it's about honoring it. And the right person, again, they're not going to make you spiral. They're not going to make you shrink. They won't make you question your clarity. They will meet you where you are. They'll match your peace, and they will make you feel comfortable being yourself. So if you're out there dating now, I want you to breathe. You don't need to rush. You don't need to perform. You don't need to abandon yourself just to keep someone interested. You're not here to be chosen. You're here to choose. And that means you need clarity, not just chemistry. I just want to add, because obviously I didn't write this down. A lot of people out there about being chosen. We all want to be chosen, right? But let's look at it this way. To choose is something we can control. To be chosen is not something we can control. And I want you to remember this, drill it into your head. Because if you go out there trying to be chosen, again, not something you can control. All you're going to do is try to be a person that you think the other person wants to choose. You are trying to manipulate someone into choosing you, pretending for you to be their perfect person. Yes, that's right. See, on one end, you're being vulnerable and a little bit, I'm trying to give them what they want. But on the other end, you're trying to manipulate someone. You're trying to manipulate them to choose you. Now you're not the victim anymore, are you? No. Now you're the aggressor. Because you're trying to trick someone into liking you. Think about that. You are in this to choose. I know what I'm ready for. I know what I want. I know what I don't want. And I know how I want to be treated. And I'm going to choose that person. And here's the best part. If that person chooses you back, well, guess what? Now you both have chosen and you both have been chosen. Being chosen is like a secondary act. When you choose and someone chooses you back, you're automatically chosen. It's not something that you need to strive for. So choose. You're in this to choose. So stay grounded and stay curious and stay with yourself. Because the more you honor yourself, the more you honor your rhythm, the more aligned your connections will be. And if this episode gave you something to think about, honestly, I am so glad and happy. If it made you pause, reflect, or feel seen, I'm proud of you, because this is what growth looks like. When you stop and think about your actions and think about what you're doing, what you're putting out into the world, and how you're treating other people. Hopefully not manipulating them. this is what growth starts to look like. And I'm very, very proud of you. And if you have a question, a situation, or a story you want to talk to me about or tell me, you can email me or you can send me a message on my website. That's joeyfrancess.com, joeyfrancess.com. There you can get in contact with me. You can send me a message, send me a story. We can talk. You can also buy my books, because a part of being, of self-reflecting and being self-aware, I have the perfect book for you. A guided journal that I wrote to help you discover yourself. It is called The Logic of Me, a guided journal for self-discovery. And you can find it on Amazon. And the link is on my website to get you there. I'm just saying, you know? So that's it for this week. Again, thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, you are honestly my favorite people. So this week, I'm going to say, stay grounded, stay clear, honor yourself, and stay amazing. Until next time.